I had had a couple of minor cases where I would feel faint, but nothing that really took me to the floor or really scared me until I was babysitting my two nephews, ages 1 and 3. And I was home alone with them for about 4 or 5 hours. I was holding the 1-year-old and it started. Feeling flushed, feeling faint, disoriented. Felt like at any minute I was going to faint, so I sat down and put the baby down. But all I could think about was that I was going to be on the floor and these two young kids were going to be on their own for another 3 or 4 hours. And that was both of those things were bad. It eventually passed. About a month later, hopped in the car to go down to Boonville, New York to see a friend. And I got on outside of Tupper Lake and it happened again. And this time I was struggling to just stay in my lane. I was driving 20 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour speed zone. I was concentrating as hard as I could and hanging onto the wheel as hard as I could just to stay in my lane. With that, we went up to CVPH and they did an electrophysiology study where they put you out and they rotate the table and do all these things to try to simulate or stimulate the same activity onto your heart that you felt when babysitting the kids or when I was driving. They couldn't duplicate it. So they inserted a loop recorder, which is about the size of a pack of gum. It goes underneath the skin. There's a little slit here, and it would insert, and the wires went directly into the heart. And that would record all activities. So then I only had that on for probably a week. And I felt another incident happen, and I went back. And at that time, they said that they saw whatever they needed to see, and were contemplating either a defibrillator or a pacemaker, but really wanted some more information. But in the meantime, they wanted to put me on some medication to slow the heart rate down. I had another incident happen, and they were able to see exactly what they needed to see. They kept me. I drove up there that day thinking I would be there just for a 10-minute appointment. They ended up keeping me there, and I was taken immediately down to the catheterization lab and into the little operating room they got there, and they put a pacemaker in. And since then, I've gone back and had several checkups, and they've tuned it up and a couple things like that. The cath lab and electrophysiology group and the cardiac group, frankly, they're well-oiled machines. They are, you expect them to be very methodical in their approach because they're messing with your heart. And they are. They're very methodical. They don't rush into anything. They looked at me probably 4 times. Very involved in the cath lab before 3 or 4 times before they put the pacemaker in. But you would expect that. What I wasn't expecting was the degree of, call it hospitality, treat you with dignity, personalized care, one-on-one, in the recovery area, in the pre-op area, in the cath lab. They talk to you. Their care, their questions, their expertise, and then the follow-up care was outstanding. That's the patient, but they're also keeping in touch with your spouse or your family members. They're just down the hall and around the corner. I think everybody's had an experience where they've had a doctor perhaps hear part of what you got to say and then interrupt you and make a diagnosis or go off on a... They then sat there. Each time Dr. Sophie came in, he sat down in a chair across the room from me, didn't seem to be in a hurry. and asked me what was going on. Tell me everything. And I felt at ease telling him for whatever time it took, all the little things so that he could put the pieces of the puzzle together and make a decision as to what needed to happen. That, I think, was significantly different than some of the experiences I had a year or two before. I haven't had anything like what I had before as far as incidents, and I feel confident that when I hop in the car, I'll make it wherever I'm going to get. My wife is relieved that I can be home alone, and she's not worried about whether I'm going to be fainting and falling on the floor and hitting my head.
While we're proud of our quality of care, we know it's more about quality of life. The CVPH Heart Center.